Hello and welcome to AI Chit-Chat, where we explore the latest trends in AI and emerging technologies. I'm Smriti Singh, your host, and today we have a very special guest, Titus, who is Practice Director at Everest Group. He is leading research in telecom, networks, and infrastructure. Titus, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? And thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. So, Titus, I understand Everest Group is a leading global research and advisory firm, and it provides data-driven insights and market intelligence to various enterprises to stay ahead of competition. But before we dive deep into the exciting transformations that AI is bringing in, especially in sectors like telecom, can you tell us a bit more about your role at Everest Group? What does your job entail, and what specific areas do you focus on?
Certainly. In very simple terms, it's all about giving the right information so that people can make confident decisions. That is the motto of our firm, and that is predominantly our roles, irrespective of the ladder that we are in, right? It's about how we can help our clients make confident decisions about the future. That is the business we are in. Now, specific to my role, I predominantly cover what people call the telecom infrastructure network landscape. Been doing this for close to a decade now. Seen how evolved and how much the market has changed. So it's all about helping both the supply and the demand landscape, right? Yeah, that's a great question, right? A good research firm will always contextualize the research for you. So the data is going to remain the same for almost everyone. The market and the forecast is going to remain the same. But how do you contextualize to a particular individual or an organization and their context, right? That is what differentiates a good research from an average research.
True.
Because the data is not going to change. We all know what the demand is going to be. Intuitively, people know that these are the segments that are going to grow. But what to do within that, given your context, that is what is the real challenge about a research firm. How do you contextualize the research to your current problem statement? And how can you make that research work for you? That is what is going to help you make a differentiated approach in the market.
Titus, AI and Gen AI at this point in time, it looks like they are at the center of massive industry shifts, right? And there are people who believe that all of us are now at the cusp of an AI-driven revolution. And at the same time, there are others who feel that maybe it's not a revolution. We should not look at this as a big transformation. It's more like an evolutionary step, rather than a complete disruption. And I'll quote, this AI index report by Stanford University. I think it was back in 2024. And this report provides numbers for AI adoption by industry and AI function in 2023. And it shows that the greatest adoption was in product and service development in sectors like telecom and media. And whereas other sectors, especially like pharma and legal services, the adoption rate is very, very poor, maybe just 5% to 9%. So how do you see AI being disruptive, for these different kinds of industries? And where do you think the trend is evolving more and more?
First point is very simple. Is it a big disruption? Yes, it's at the same level as how internet was back in the 2000s. That's the closest comparison we have, right? It's that big of a tectonic shift in terms of how the evolution is going to happen going forward. The first major bucket is all in the marketing landscape, right? Any marketing content generation, you want to run automated campaigns for specific set of clients, and how do you contextualize all of those kind of marketing campaigns? Those were one of the biggest use cases that have been adopted, and hence the industries that are dependent on that. Now, the second big use case is all about customer experience, right? Now, the entire chatbot, what people talk about, the user interface and the customer experience interface, that is the second most disrupted market because of the developments that have happened so far. So the industries that are dependent on that again, we are talking about banking. Banking was the biggest adopter of customer experience centric AI adoption in terms of use cases. Now, AI agents are answering questions for you instead of having a call center. Interestingly, this is also being applied to retail companies, right? E-commerce, personalized product recommendations, and virtual assistants for customer support. These have been other big areas. So this is the customer experience bucket that I want to put it. And the third is all about productivity or optimization, right?
Yeah.
While productivity is a broad term, I'll say it's more of optimization. And this is across industries, right? There is no industry that is not going to be affected by it. It's all about how do you improve your throughput. That throughput could be a manufacturing industry where they're trying to do product simulations and maintenance and all of those life cycle they want to accelerate through AI. Or when you're looking at telecom, we are talking about how do you improve the visibility or the observability of your telecom stack and then optimize the network and ensuring that the call drops are minimal, the internet connectivity is always the best for a person who's traveling, all these kind of things, and is what I call it as optimization. This is the third biggest bucket.
I think that's very interesting, pointers, Titus. But when it comes to AI adoption, and you're talking to enterprises on daily, everyday basis, how ready enterprises are in terms of adopting AI at a bigger level, not just a smaller level. I understand there was a report which says across industries, almost maybe 53% of the industries are right now using AI at least for one business use case. That could be for automation or maybe for customer experience and other use cases. But when it comes to AI adoption, especially in an industry like telecom, so I will tell you from my experience, when we are talking to enterprises, they are missing this data strategy, right? It's not just about having clean or usable data. It's also about the data integration. They have data coming from internal systems, maybe from third-party vendors. They also have public data set. And most of this data is not structured or multimodal. So because their data strategy is not in place, they really don't know how much of that data is usable and is accessible to the AI system. So the adoption rate is pretty slow. Do you feel that that's the only reason, or why do you think this adoption rate differs from maybe enterprise to enterprise and sector to sector?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Especially when I look at telecom, right? I'd have to put the amount of data they have is amongst the largest compared to any industry.
Absolutely.
Do we have enough data to train all these models? That is never the question. So we did a survey, right? Last year, this was close to, we had 500 enterprises across Fortune thousands responding to it. Percent of them said their data is not ready to do any of the AI use case. Right? 60% of Fortune 1000 enterprises stopped saying that their data is not ready is a big challenge. Now, that is where I think a lot of them understand that problem, and there are really good solutions coming up in the market in terms of how they want to do that unified data stack, right? Or a multi hybrid data stack that is needed at this point of time, because it's not a centralized solution that's going to work. You're going to have, if you want to see the potential of AI, it needs to be a hybrid AI data strategy where data needs to be, obviously there needs to be a centralized data, but also how do you process the data that are at the edge points, right? Do we have that strategy ready? Not yet, but we are getting there. Within a year or 2 years, we should be seeing a lot of enterprises nailing that strategy in terms of how they kind of get the data ready for the AI adoption, right? Because I have zero doubts about the model efficiencies or do we have the right kind of compute infrastructure, because we have enough examples for it. And telecom, if I'm being very honest, they need to fix that much earlier than the others, right? Because the potential is much larger than any other industry. One thing that a lot of people don't give credit to telecom industry, we take it for granted, right? When is the last time you wanted to make an urgent call and it did not go through? It's very rare, right? It's not an easy thing to pull off, but they've pulled it off for many years. But how do they take the same learnings but make it faster and move it with the data that they have and make it more efficient. Based on at least my conversation with some of the leading telcos, they have already figured out that plan. The largest telcos in the world, you talk about AT&T, Verizon, Orange in the Europe, BT in UK, Airtel and Jio are one of the leading adopters of technology. It's just a matter of time before they execute it and we start seeing those benefits coming to the end customer.
Very interesting what you mentioned, Titus, that especially in telecom, enterprises are putting an effort to have this strategy in place. Do you think there is still a gap where it comes to maybe mid-size enterprises or smaller ones? Do you think this effort is going on and everybody is working in that direction?
Yeah, you are totally right. It's the topmost enterprises who have figured this out, right? They are ahead of the curve. They are moving some of their pilots to even larger adoptions. But if you're looking at the mid-sized ones, mid-sized firms, be it both telcos or other industries, right? That adoption is still in the POC stage. They're all looking at proof of concepts and then they're asking questions. What is my TCO and ROI? For example, this was one of the clients we helped kind of build that TCO conversation. So this was a very simple customer experience use case. So their cost increased by 35%. And the productivity or the efficiency improvement in customer service improved by 18%.
Yeah.
Now, 18% is a great number if you look at it standalone. Now, looking at the cost, some people might question that it's a significant increase in cost. So we will see the cost coming down as infrastructure and all the processes and the efficiencies improve. And we'll see the benefits also getting better, right? We are going to start seeing those transformations within this year. Whoever is staying behind is just going to be left out if you're not thinking about it right now.
Yeah, no, this is interesting, Titus, because when people say there are more people who are concerned about AI rather than being excited about AI, there is another segment that truly believes, like what you said, if you're not going ahead with AI, then it's doing more harm to you. So you touched upon cost optimization when it comes to AI adoption. How do you help companies, do cost optimization? Because I'm sure, as you mentioned, for big enterprises, it might not be a big deal, but for smaller enterprises, if the productivity increases, essentially they agree on, if even if the cost is rising. Did you see the enterprises are ready to take that big leap, or you think we are still a little far from this goal?
We are still far from the goal, in the sense people still are not sure, which is not the worst place to be. And that's where we also come into the role and the foray. We are here to give them the right insights. The biggest advice we give to all the enterprises that we end up working with is that do not shy away, at least, from giving it a shot. That's the biggest advice we give, because we are not an AI company. We do not sell AI. But what we tell them is, hey, there's a huge landscape. You've told us this is your biggest problem. If this is your biggest problem, these are the set of providers you need to be thinking about. And why don't you start with them? Try it out. See what's working, see what's not working. Then build your strategy going forward from there. We are bigger adopters of AI. We use ChatGPT for our work. We are also embedding a lot of AI into our research and how do we improve our customer experience as well, because you need to walk the talk, right? I personally seen the benefits, right? Earlier, I used to take at least 2 weeks to write a report. Now I can easily finish a report in 2 to 3 days, simply using some of the tools that are available in the market. The potential is endless. Right? We can look into a future where people are doing things at a much faster pace, and it's all about people, whether they're ready to take the leap of faith. Obviously, they're going to face challenges, and that's where they need to talk to people, experts like you and the experts in the market, to kind of identify the right fit solution. But there is enough help in the market to make that choice. Enterprises have been adopting, and the benefits they're seeing. In fact, the Facebooks, the Googles of the world, they have already seen that benefits, right? They're already seeing software development improve by over 200 to 50% each. Now it's just a matter of time before other people also should start incorporating that.
Absolutely. And in that space, organization like yours, Titus, are really setting an example and helping enterprises by providing such insights. And Titus, as you said, there's a lot of credit that we need to give to, especially industry like telecom. So in pharma and legal services, obviously, because they have very high, highly sensitive data, and there is not enough trust in AI to make decisions on drug discovery or patient treatments. And they also believe that AI does not understand the nuances of law. That's why we see maybe AI adoption is not that fast. But in telecom, on the other hand, the AI adoption rate is pretty high, right? But what specific use cases within telecom do you see enterprises are going towards when it comes to AI adoption?
Yeah. So specific to telecom, the first area most telecom operators are looking at is how do they improve customer experience. So they have embedded a lot of virtual assistants to kind of help the B2C customers, right? Improve availability if it's a connectivity challenge that they're having or some bit of maintenance work. How do they resolve that quickly? This started happening last year onwards. They've come a long way. This year, it's gonna be more about how are they gonna improve their network operations or optimizing their network, right? That's where I think NetoAI is playing a good role. I've seen some good use cases in SK Telecom as well. They've used their own LLMs to improve their operations because let's be honest, while they've done a very good job, they're also struggling from a huge capex and an opex cost point of view, right? So it's a huge mandate. That's the number one priority for everyone. AI has come at the right time for them to help them with those challenges. They're easily bound to make at least 15 to 20% gains just to begin with this year, right? And that gain is just gonna improve as we talk about the next 5 years. And I'll be meeting a lot of them in the coming week. So I'm just excited to see how much progress they've made.
Awesome. And we would also be very interested in getting those insights back from you, Titus. We also see a lot of growth in terms of domain specific applications. Like at NetoAI, we have built our telecom specific models. So do you think the enterprises are interested in trying out these domain specific applications, or they are still looking for foundational models?
Yeah, the most asked question every day. So this has been a perennial question throughout the history of software, right? Build versus buy. The short answer is I would always say buy in this specific instance, purely because enterprises at this point of time to make the best use of AI, there are enough in the market who can provide the AI that is specific to your domain. So at least in this group and in my head, the answer is very clear. We always tell, look for the right providers in the market who are providing that domain specific AI, right? Any broad AI that people are thinking about that there's going to be a one size fit all approach, that's not going to work. It has to be contextualized to your case, just like how any research needs to be contextualized. We call this concept as AI infusion. And the way we look at AI infusion is you have data and intelligence about your processes, your enterprise, and the kind of work you do. How do you couple that with a platform that is AI powered? That is going to provide the AI infused operating model of the future.
Yeah.
Now, that platform, AI platform, that cannot be a broad-based platform. It has to be contextualized, that is domain specific, and then tie it with your data, tie it with your enterprise context. Then you're going to see the biggest benefits. Our number crunching says it's at least a 200 billion opportunity in the next 2 years, right? Yeah, just within 2 years, just using AI infusion, 200 billion opportunity you're going to create in the market. But it has to be contextualized. It has to be a domain specific adoption. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on a lot of things, right?
Yeah. That's really important what you mentioned, Titus, because there's a need to have that framework ready where you take a generic foundation model and then train it for a specific domain or a use case so that it gives you very contextual and relevant answers, right? What are the other emerging trends that you see within AI?
Overall AI trends you're talking about? Yeah. Okay. So the four big areas, right? Obviously, the model race is happening right now. I know DeepSeek came and disrupted some things. That is going to be an interesting take for the year. But at least from our vantage point, what we are seeing is there's more open source models that are kind of taking stage and they're increasing adoption. They're also kind of making a lot faster inroads than people anticipated. So every other day, I'm seeing some new model coming in. So that model race is gonna be fun to watch.
Absolutely.
The other is a topic that was covered in detail in the previous podcast here as well, is around the whole AI governance and how people are looking at it. The third is kind of related to this, and this is my most interesting topic, at least from my coverage point of view. People are talking about domain specific AI. We are also going to see region specific AI. Now, with China coming up with DeepSeek, that's kind of hurt some egos out in the world. So everyone is kind of trying to build their own AI because they believe that's what's going to differentiate the next big country in the world.
Yeah.
So we are already seeing, I know India's also made some announcements in terms of indigenous AI development. There's a lot happening in the Gulf, Middle East as well. We call it sovereign AI, where people are developing region specific AIs that's more suited for their regions. Because if you're talking about contextualization, people and cultures are the biggest contextualization we need to, at the end of the day, do it. And hence, this is an interesting market that started to develop. I'll be on the lookout to see how citizen experiences are getting improved because these AI developments are happening within certain regions. That will also change the landscape that we are living in. So that's my most interesting topic that I'm researching on, and we have to see where this is going to take go towards.
I must say, Title, this is really interesting what you just mentioned, region-specific AI.
It's a very exciting times. I'm just gonna just sit back and watch. As an analyst, it's always I get the best seats, right? I watch everything unfold right before everyone else gets to know. So it's like getting a sneak peek into a great movie.
Interesting. I was thinking of asking you this question maybe towards the end, that these days people are looking for just one killer app, one AI solution that's gonna do everything for them. But they can't be just one mantra that's gonna do everything for them. What are your thoughts about it?
If adopting AI is the mantra, yes, go for it. If you're thinking there's going to be one solution that's going to work for every problem, then it's a no, right?
Yeah.
You will have to look at context. You will have to look at what are you trying to solve for your customers, or as a business, what are you trying to deliver? If that is the problem you need to solve, then this is the kind of way an AI solution can help you. There is no shortage of solutions right now in terms of solving problems, and it's just going to get better and better as we proceed. So don't look for that killer app. I know there are providers in the market who kind of think that that's going to happen. It will never be the case. It has to be for individual organization, right? Even within a domain, especially if I give the example of a telco, a large telco has very different problems compared to a mid-tier telco, right? A tier 2 telco has much more higher manual processes compared to a tier 1 telco. So that's a different context altogether, and AI solution that is not developed or contextualized for that is not going to work for it. So that's I know it's a long answer, but don't look for a killer app.
It's a very relevant answer, Titus, because I think all organizations have to think about starting with a plan, and figuring out what exactly is the business problem that I'm trying to solve using AI systems, and then work towards it. So it's the whole life cycle management of your AI system that enterprises have to work towards. You can't just have one AI system that can do wonders for you. Great insights. I'm sure listeners will learn a lot more from this discussion. Just towards the end, if you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the listeners.
Final thoughts is about be curious about what's happening with AI, because people are too afraid at this point of time about the impact of it. At the end of the day, technology is as good as the humans that adopt it. if we are skeptical about it, then the outcome is also going to be skeptical. The biggest advice I would leave to the listeners is just be curious about what is happening and how do you want to solve things with AI. AI is not going to take any jobs away as long as you're using AI, right? You will stay relevant. If you're not using AI, then that's when I will be worried about. And think about how do you want to contextualize the AI solutions. That's the biggest thing we are telling all the enterprises. It's not going to be, do not wait for a killer app to come and then like, I'm just going to adopt what the killer app is going to do. That's not going to work for you.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, Titus. I think you shared some wonderful insights, and then people will learn a lot from this discussion. And if needed, we might just come back for another follow-up discussion with you. And
Sure.
then stay tuned. Thank you so much, Titus, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.